The sky had turned dark, the snow had fallen more densely, and suddenly there were loud roars below. On the top of the mountain the great elder huffed for an hour, and then looked down to see what was happening. Below, one armored generals rushing in like lightning to kill the people of the Jin family. Then the gray-haired man also held a sword and rushed towards to the Jin family, who died like a straw. Then there was another man, with long hair. He also madly killed everyone who passed through his hands and fell.
In the distance is Lee Cheon-baek. He is telling all his warriors show no mercy to the Jin family of Taiyuan.
Jin Weikyung saw that the main forces of Mount Sword Sector joined the war and killing Jin family's forces. Then he coldly spoke, "The time has come."
The great elder already observed the situation, and said indeed it has. He's still looking at Lee Cheon-baek below, and thinking to himself it would have been better if that man showed up a bit later, but I guess it doesn't matter. In the end, they will most likely step in. Then he stepped forward and said to Jin Weikyung, "I'll take care of Lee Cheon-baek."
To hearing that, Jin Weikyung replied, "Do as you wish." Then Jin Weikyung, thinking about Lee Cheon-baek the Bloodhound, he's a transcendent martial master who single-handedly led the Mount Sword Sector to the top. How unfortunately. I've always wanted to have a talk with him. Then he said to Weipeng, "We'll take care of the rest."
Weipeng respectfully took the sword and walked over and said, "As you wish, my lord."
Jin Weikyung reached for the sword. He stared at the sword, looking very thoughtful. He remembered that man, the owner of the sword. In the letter he left behind he wrote, "I want to travel the mainland. Use this sword in my stead." Jin Weikyung was silent, his face was hidden in the darkness, and then he thought to himself, "I don't even know where the person who is supposed to be our family head currently is. Give me a break. Traveling the mainland? You've done nothing but fool around your entire life. And my second brother should have received news regarding our situation right about now." He motivated himself and thinking, "I must be the one to protect the Jin family of Taiyuan." He pulled out his sword, swung it into the air and thought, "I have to emerge victorious." Jin Weikyung turned around, stood stunned before his warriors, then raised his sword and said loudly, "Don't leave a single one of them alive."
On the other side, Lee Cheon-baek personally killing people of the Jin family. The people who passed through his hands were no longer intact. But Lee Cheon-baek, still did not showing any mercy. Suddenly his eyes noticed something and he looked in one direction. His eyes were very cruel when looking in that direction. That person was Jin Weikyung. He was calmly walking forward and saying the name Jin Weikyung. The sword in his hand emitted a layer of red murderous aura. He gritted his teeth and thought, "You're finally here. I'll make sure to kill you with my own hands." Lee Cheon-baek was very angry after seeing Jin Weikyung.
Suddenly a voice on behind speak out, "Oh-ho. Sword QI?"
He suddenly jumped after hearing that voice. He was a bit stunned, slowly turned his head and thought to himself, "Since when did he?" Then without saying a word he swung his sword on his behind. The sword, a pile of dust appeared. The sword was also emitting a huge murderous aura, but the sword could not pierce the great elder's body because he had moved to a quite far place. Lee Cheon-baek coldly looked at the great elder and asked the Blade of Illusion.
The great elder looked at him and replied, "It's been a while since I've last heard the name. I assume you're the Bloodhound?"
Looking at the great elder leisurely stroking his beard, Lee Cheon-baek replied, "It's a good thing that you're here." In his heart he was thinking, even though I was focused on Jin Weikyung, I never expected this man to appear behind me without any presence. He's definitely a martial master. Lee Cheon-baek spoke up again, "It's not a bad idea becoming the strongest in all of Shaanxi first."
The great elder replied, "That's a bit impossible for you."
Hearing that, Lee Cheon-baek coldly said, "You never know until you try."
The great elder said, "That's what the weak always say. They fail to realize that nothing will change the inevitable outcome."
Lee Cheon-baek swung his murderous aura sword once, and then he raised his eyebrows and said, "Your words are sharp."
The great elder also using his sword aura, and swung his sword, then said, "I wonder if my words are the only thing that's sharp." He frowned and said, "I'll give you the first move."
Hearing that sarcastic sentence, Lee Cheon-baek's whole face turned red and was extremely angry. He did not hesitate any longer and rushed into battle with the great elder and attacked with full force using his sword. The great elder easily blocked it. He raised his eyebrows with anger due to his attack didn't affect. In multiple directions his sword slashed towards the great elder, and the great elder used his sword to block the attack. The great elder suddenly disappeared. In other second he noticed the elder on his behind. The great elder swung the sword at him. The sudden attack pushed him backwards and Lee Cheon-baek hardly blocked it. Lee Cheon-baek's hand holding the sword trembled due to that critical hit. The great elder continuously slashed at Lee Cheon-baek in multiple directions, and Lee Cheon-baek had to retreat backwards because of the great elder's attacks. The group of people got attention seeing fighting, making them startled, and the sharp blades cutting everything that on his way. Even the sharp blades aura cut the on of the Mount Sword Sector member. And even Jin family also facing that sharp blades aura towards them. Lee Cheon-baek and the great elder fighting in the middle of the area make everyone scared.
Everyone was running around saying, "Get out of here. We're going to get caught up in their fight." Looking at the two warriors fighting with no one giving way, everyone said, so this is the battle between martial masters.
The sharp sword aura flew forward. Somehow it hit Lee Cheon-bek's arm. He shook his bleeding arm, changed the sword to his left hand. He thought, damn, to think that my main hand would be the one to get injured. At this moment the great elder swung his sword and flew, and Lee Cheon-bek raised his sword with his left hand to barely block the attack. A broken bone sound rang out in his mouth. He screamed. Lee Cheon-bek's left arm holding the sword was twisted back. He cried out in pain. The great elder noticed it, and taking benefits of it, and attacked with full force with his sword technique in multiple directions. Then his shoulders suddenly tensed, his waist shot out jets of blood, even his shoulder was spurting blood. A sword slashed straight towards Lee Cheon-bek's chest. He gritted his teeth, and endured the pain because he was seriously injured. He immediately spat out a bunch of real blood. His face turned pale, his white eyes filled with pain, because he was seriously injured.